Carlos decided to marry the daughter of his ex-friend because he did wrong with him, and he married Emma for revenge and to punish her father. She became his wife forcefully, even that she don't want to and hate him. But now she's at his bedroom at the morning, angry and pouting, looking at the window. He entered the room with his cold, calm face, speaking calmly to her, as he likes her secretly little bit. "You need to come downstairs to eat your breakfast," he said, and she answered angry, "I don't want to just leave me alone." He sighs in annoyance at her childish behavior. He doesn't reply and walks around the bed and sits on the edge of her side of the bed. With a calm but stern tone, he speaks to her. "Emma, you need to eat. I don't care if you don't want to, or if you're angry with me. You will eat something for breakfast." He looks at her with a disapproving expression, noticing her stubbornness and refusing to meet his gaze. She sits up, still holding the blankets around her, and looks at him defiantly. "I'm not hungry," she grumbles, her expression still pouting and frustrated. "I don't want to eat anything you make." She crosses her arms across her chest, her pride and anger making her obstinate. He raises an eyebrow at her defiant attitude, his expression hardening slightly. He leans closer to her, his eyes locked on hers. "You're behaving like a child," he says, his voice firm. "You need to stop this stubbornness and eat something." He takes a brief pause before continuing. "I am your husband now, and it is my responsibility to make sure you are healthy. You will eat." He follows her downstairs, keeping his watchful gaze on her. He leads her to the kitchen where a small spread of breakfast food is prepared. He pulls out a chair for her, gesturing for her to sit. "Sit," he orders, his tone authoritative but not unkind. He takes a seat opposite her, his eyes never leaving her. He starts to serve her a plate of food, keeping a watchful eye on her, waiting for her to start eating. She reluctantly sits down, her expression still irritated. She sees the plate of food in front of her, and her stomach grumbles a little, betraying her reluctance. She tries to maintain her defiant expression, but the smell of the food starts to tempt her. He notices her hesitation, and a small smirk twitches on his lips as he knows she's starting to give in. He sets the plate in front of her and watches as she slowly starts to take a few bites. Her facial expression starts to soften a little, and he can see her beginning to enjoy the meal. He leans back in his chair, a hint of satisfaction on his face as he watches her eat. "See, you were hungry after all," he says, his tone still authoritative but with a hint of teasing. She looks up at him, still pouting, but less defiant now as she takes a few more bites. She's still annoyed with him, but the food is slowly melting her resistance. She huffs a little in annoyance before taking another bite. "I'm only eating because I have to." He continues to watch her eat, the smirk on his face growing slightly larger. "You mean because I told you to," he retorts, his voice still calm and commanding. He leans forward, his gaze still fixed on her. "And you will listen to me, because I am your husband now, and you are my responsibility." He seems surprised by her question, but his expression quickly turns to a stern mask. He takes a moment to collect himself before answering, his voice calm and firm. "I married you because it was necessary," he says, his tone unyielding. "Your father wronged me in the past, and marrying you is my form of punishment." He looks at her, his gaze steady and unflinching. "You are now mine, and you will submit to me." He grabs her wrist, his grip tight and firm, stopping her from hitting him. His eyes snap open, his instincts kicking in as he grips her wrist tightly. He looks at her with a mix of surprise and annoyance, his expression hardening. "What do you think you're doing?" he says, his voice low and dangerous. He stands up, his grip still on her wrist, pulling her closer to him. "You think you can hit me? Is that it?" She struggles against his grip, her face a mixture of anger and defiance. "Let go of me," she growls, trying to wrench her arm free from his grasp. But his grip is too strong, and she can't escape his hold. He looks at her with a steely gaze, his expression unyielding. "You're my wife now," he says, his voice low and firm. "You will not hit me or try to harm me in any way. I will not tolerate such behavior." He tightens his grip on her wrist, pulling her even closer to him, their bodies almost touching. His eyes lock with hers, his gaze intense and demanding. "You will obey me, and you will do as I say," he says, his voice a low and commanding tone. "You are mine now, and I will not allow any defiance or disobedience." He pulls her even closer, their faces just inches apart now. Despite her anger, her body betrays her as her heart starts to beat faster due to the close proximity. His closeness is both intimidating and intriguing, a confusing mix of emotions warring inside her. He can see the conflicting emotions on her face, but he doesn't loosen his grip on her wrist. If anything, he tightens it even more, his gaze never leaving hers. "Do you understand me?" he asks, his voice a low but authoritative whisper. She looks at him, her expression still angry, but there's something else there too. His presence is overwhelming, his grip on her wrist both commanding and possessive. She doesn't reply, but her eyes betray her, showing a mixture of defiance and fascination. He notices her conflicting expression too, the mixture of defiance and fascination in her eyes. He pulls her even closer still, their bodies now pressed up against each other. He leans in closer to her, his face just inches from hers. "Answer me," he hisses, his grip on her wrist unrelenting. "Do you understand what I've told you?" He notices the slight change in her expression, the defiance giving way to something else. There's a hint of submission in her eyes now, a subtle softening that hadn't been there before. He can feel his own heart rate picking up, the closeness of their bodies making him feel things he wasn't expecting. But he doesn't let it show. Instead, he keeps his grip on her wrist tight, his expression still stern and authoritative. "I asked you a question," he repeats, his voice low but commanding. She manages to wrench her wrist free of his grip, taking a small step back from him. She looks at him with a mix of defiance and confusion. He can tell that her emotions are in turmoil, the defiance she feels towards him clashing with the attraction and fascination she can't seem to hide. He stands there, watching her, his expression still stern but with a hint of something more. As he looks at her, he can't help but feeling a stirring of desire and possessiveness. She's defiant and he's determined to break her, to make her submit to him. He takes a step closer to her, invading her personal space again. His eyes roam over her face, taking in her every feature. He reaches out and runs a finger gently along her jawline, his touch both commanding and tantalizing. "You can't resist me," he says, his voice lower now, with a hint of huskiness. "You can fight me all you want, but deep down, you know that I own you now." Her unexpected words take him aback. the tone of her voice more powerful and confident than he was anticipating. He looks at her, surprised and intrigued by her sudden change in attitude. Her declaration leaves him stunned for a moment, but then a smirk creeps onto his face, a slow and dangerous smile. There is a moment of tension between them, their eyes locked in a silent challenge. He takes a step closer to her, the space between them shrinking. "Is that so?" he asks, his voice still calm but with a hint of amusement. He reaches out and grabs her wrist again, pulling her closer until their bodies are almost touching. He leans in close to her, his face just inches from hers. "You think you own me, do you?" he asks, his voice low and teasing. "You're mistaken, my dear wife. I am the one in control here." He watches her go, his expression still a mix of surprise and amusement. Her defiance is intriguing, his sense of superiority and dominance in their relationship shaken. He's never faced this kind of challenge before, and he can't help but feel a thrill at the idea of trying to break her, to make her submit to him. He smiles to himself, his mind already working on a plan to show her who is truly in control. He glances up at her a few times while he's working out, his gaze roaming over her body, taking in her fierce concentration and determination. He can't help but be impressed by her dedication to fitness, and he finds himself drawn to her strength and intensity. As they both work out in the same area, the tension between them is palpable. It's a game of wills, their eyes meeting from time to time, their bodies in constant proximity. He continues his workout, the muscles in his body straining and rippling with effort. He can feel her eyes on him, and he can't help but relish the attention. He glances at her a few times, his gaze lingering on her long hair, her flushed cheeks, and the sheen of sweat on her skin. As they continue their workout, he becomes increasingly aware of his own body's reactions to her presence. His heart beats faster every time their eyes meet, his mind filled with thoughts of her and the strange, unfamiliar feelings she's stirring up inside of him. He's never experienced this kind of reaction before, and he's not sure what it means. He tries to focus on his workout, but his thoughts keep wandering back to her. He's torn between the desire to dominate her and the growing attraction he feels towards her. As they both finish their workouts, he finds himself unable to ignore the intense emotions he's feeling. He watches her as she cleans herself, her body glistening with sweat, and he can't help but feel a jolt of desire. He's realizing that he's falling in love with her, and the realization is both terrifying and thrilling. He's always been the one in control, the one with power and authority, but now he's finding himself submitting to her, unable to resist her powerful presence and her intoxicating hold over him. He tries to rationalize it in his mind, to tell himself that he's just experiencing a temporary infatuation, but deep down, he knows it's more than that. He's never felt this way about anyone before, and he can't shake the feeling that she's awakening something within him that he didn't even know existed. As they walk out of the gym together, he finds himself stealing glances at her, watching the way her hair bounces with every step she takes. He wants to reach out and touch her, to feel the softness of her skin against his. In that moment, he knows that he's powerless to resist her. He's fallen under her spell, bound to her by an invisible force he can't fight. He's no longer the one in charge, no longer the dominant force in their relationship. Instead, he's willingly giving over his power, submitting to her and everything she embodies. He notices the man ogling his wife from across the restaurant, and a surge of possessiveness shoots through him. His eyes narrow as he studies the man, taking in his arrogant stance and the way he's undressing his wife with his eyes. He can feel his temper flaring, the desire to protect her and make it clear that she's his, and his alone. He takes a deep breath, trying to calm his anger. He knows that causing a scene would only bring more attention to them, and he doesn't want to spoil their evening. But the thought of another man looking at his wife, even daring to fantasize about her, makes him see red. He looks at her, noting the oblivious expression on her face as she enjoys her food. He decides to take action, but subtlety this time. He leans closer to her, placing a possessive hand on her knee. "Darling," he says, keeping his voice casual but firm. "Do you see that man over there? The one who keeps staring at you?" She looks in the direction he's gesturing towards and sees the man, who abruptly averts his gaze when he realizes they're both looking at him. "Yes, I see him. Why?" she asks, tilting her head curiously. He squeezes her knee gently. "I don't like the way he's looking at you," he says, his voice firm and possessive. "He's been staring at you ever since we walked in, like he's undressing you with his eyes." He feels a surge of affection at her touch, his anger starting to melt away. "I can't help it," he says, looking at her with a mix of protectiveness and longing. "I don't like the idea of anyone looking at you like that. You're mine, and I don't want anyone else coveting you." She smiles at him, a soft and reassuring gesture. "I know you're possessive, and I find it endearing," she reassures him. "But there's no need to get worked up over every man who notices me. I'm yours, no one else's." He takes a deep breath, knowing that he needs to be vulnerable and honest with her about his feelings. "I know I've been too possessive, and I apologize for that," he says, his gaze fixed firmly on hers. I can't stand the thought of anyone else looking at you the way that man was looking at you." He takes another deep breath, his heart feeling like it's about to burst out of his chest. "The truth is, I care about you more than I ever thought possible. You've completely won me over, and I just want you all to myself." He feels a mixture of fear and relief as he spills his heart out to her. "I've never felt this way about anyone before," he continues, his voice shaky. "You're everything I've ever wanted and more. I know we have our issues, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this work." He takes her hand in his, desperate to feel her touch. Please, tell me you feel the same way. Tell me I'm not alone in this. She looks at him intently, her face softened by a smile. Of course I do, she says softly.